she couldn't be on stage speaking. And I don't hold that against Medea because I understand what she's up against. But what I do reject are the individuals and the groups who, instead of asking to be a part of this or working with us, having a conversation, they invested all their time into attacking us, smearing us in the most cynical way. And the reality is, building an anti-war movement is not about building anybody's personal vanity political project. It's not about building even necessarily individual parties. It's putting all of that together over the one umbrella of ending the war. We don't have the luxury in the grassroots when we're fighting for something to say that we want to play clubhouse politics and that we want to sit in the same houses, talk to the same people that we've been talking to for, in some cases, decades, other cases, years. And everybody thinks the same, everybody looks the same. That's not fun, that's not growth, and that's definitely not building a movement. So I actually think it's great that people can come together and discuss the areas where they disagree. And, you know, we can debate whether or not teenage girls should have to share locker rooms or compete in athletics against biological males another time. Because the reality is, if the people who run this country right now continue down this path, those other questions aren't even going to matter. They're not going to matter. We all know the stakes of this war. And our job in the grassroots is to understand the stakes of the war and communicate to the people the stakes of the war and the cost of the war. And I mean all the U.S. people, regardless of what they believe in on other issues. We are all affected by this, not just in terms of the taxpayer dollar cost. I mean, we should be communicating to people that the price of gas at the pump, the price of the food they're buying right now is all tied to this war. You think sanctioning Russia's oil means that Russia's not going to make money off their oil? No, it just means we're sanctioning ourselves, not able to buy that oil, and then suddenly the price of oil goes up. I wonder why that is. So it's about communicating the stakes and the real cost to people who might see the war itself as abstract. But it is also, I think, about being serious about what we're actually living through right now. I hear a lot of people talk about the lead up to World War III, and that's what we're experiencing right now. Hello. I would actually argue that we're already living through World War III, because the world war that we are going to experience, or that we are experiencing in our generation, is not of the same nature as the world wars past. There's not trenches. The nature of the war is different. The battle is different. It's a hybrid war. They have economic sanctions that they levy as part of this war. They wage a media war through your mind now, not just on the television, but through social media as well. And there's a proxy war. There's a covert aspect, which is what we're seeing play out in Ukraine. Don't think for a minute that it's a war between Ukraine and Russia. It's a war between the United States and Russia. And our leaders openly say it. You've heard them all. The biggest cheerleaders of sending more war to the front line in Ukraine always make this really odd point. They say, no, it actually is a good investment because we can give them the money and they'll fight the war and we don't have to. Haven't you heard that? You've heard them say it over and over again. I heard Hillary Clinton say it. I hear Lindsey Graham make it. And the people who say that, they are so demented because they are openly stating that their whole vision for the war is dependent on their ability to send every last Ukrainian father, son, brother, friend onto the front line. They are happy to fight to the death of the last Ukrainian. The United States is. And so standing here and organizing something like this is actually the real way to stand up for Ukrainian lives, because the war, they're the ones suffering the most. it is up to us to be serious about communicating the stakes and the cost. And just to point out one more time that the same system that is responsible for the train derailment in Ohio, where a corporation and the government basically now have nuked an entire U.S. city, is the same system that blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, creating the greatest environmental catastrophe of my lifetime. It's a corporate, oligarchical system. It's a militarist system. It's evil and it's rotten to the core. And when we are clear about those objectives and about the stakes, it's not so hard to put away our differences and to come together and rage against the war machine. So thank you all for doing it. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you to Nick and Angela once again. And no more war.
Thank you, Anya. Okay, now we have a little teaser for you. Up next, we have Daniel McAdams, co-host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report and director of the Ron Paul Institute. Thank you so much for being here with us.
They lie. Say it with me. They lie. 20 years ago this month, Colin Powell went to the United Nations and delivered a pack of lies that got us into one of the worst wars in history. 1 million people died because of the lies told by Colin Powell and the neocons. White House, Capitol, State Department, Pentagon, CIA. This is the axis of evil war lies. Saddam ripped babies from incubators. Gaddafi handing out Viagra. Assad gassed his own people. Putin losing badly, but about to march into Berlin. All wars are lies. You're anti-war? That's nice. That's great. But everyone's anti-war. Victoria Nuland is anti-war. Lindsey Graham is anti-war. The ghost of John McCain is anti-war. I once met a missile maker. He was anti-war because his missiles were accurate and they reduced collateral damage. It's not enough to be anti-war, as nice as that is. You must be anti-war propaganda, because war propaganda greases the wheels of the war machine. We must fight the lies leading to war. We must refuse to take part in the war preparation for battlefield. We must follow a rule I call the Rockwell Rule, named after the great libertarian anti-war writer Lew Rockwell. Refuse to demonize any leader or any foreign government the CIA wants to be demonized. Refuse to do their work for them. They don't care that you don't support war. They want to get you to say it. So-and-so is a monster. Say it. Because when you say it, you help the war machine move a little closer. And then they'll say, see, even the progressives think that so-and-so is a monster. Even the libertarians say so-and-so is a monster. Yeah, they don't want to go to war. But see, they agree with us. Now we're proactive. We want to do something about it. They're lazy layabouts. They don't want to do anything about it. So when you participate in the demonization that the CIA wants you to participate in, that the warmongers want you to participate in, you help the war machine move along. The only antidote to their lies is truth. So pray for peace and speak the truth.
I got him. All right. Next up, we have 3 former members of Congress who came to join us today. I think you know their names. Dennis Kucinich, Tulsi Gabbard, Ron Paul. We're going to start with Dennis Kucinich, former member of Congress from Ohio. Take it away, Dennis. You want this, Dennis?
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome to stand up.
It's a pleasure to join Ron Paul and Tulsi Gabbard and all the other speakers and all of you at this important event. Brothers and sisters, we gather here this afternoon before this national shrine dedicated to an apostle of healing with the recognition that we are at an epoch of American history, no less fraught than that which was faced by Abraham Lincoln, but with the knowledge that our nation has survived times of division by invoking the power of spirit, the light of truth, and in the words of the prophet Isaiah, through making justice the measuring line. We are here today in painful recognition that our government does not have the capacity to heal the divisions in this nation or the willingness to use the basic science of human relations, sincere diplomacy, to avoid violent conflict, and is, in fact, unwilling to end conflict peacefully. Its greatest talent is to craft misinformation and disinformation, to subvert the media and misuse it as an instrument to incite fear and hatred among our people, exciting partisan divisions at home through crass politics, and stirring ancient hatreds abroad through lies, deceit, false flag operations, and provocations which profane the very essence of democracy. In blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, this government has deliberately circumvented Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, the authority of Congress to make war. It has violated international criminal law by conspiring to commit acts of sabotage and violence on the high seas. It has used illegal and unconstitutional means to destroy the energy resources needed to protect millions of people in Europe during the winter, and then to profit from its illegal actions by selling energy to Europe at a 4 to 6 times markup. It has done so. It has done so blatantly, cynically, simultaneously taking credit for the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline and then denying any role in it. I speak directly to those responsible, thanks to a courageous journalist, Seymour Hersh. Thanks to a courageous journalist, Seymour Hersh. We know what each of you did at the Nord Stream pipeline, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary of State, Mr. National Security Advisor, and Madam Undersecretary of State, and we will not rest until you are held accountable by Congress, by the International Criminal Court, and by the American people at the next election. For your reprehensible conduct, which has debased our Constitution, undermined the rule of law, in our name, committed an act of war which threatened the peace of the world and the stability of our own nation. No amount of balloon militarism will distract us from your profoundly lawless, reckless conduct. Even intelligence professionals are aghast at your White House's incompetence and have lost trust in your ability to defend America. Oh, yes, you want to hold Russia to account. That will ultimately be up to the Russian people. But it is up to we, the American people, to hold you to account. To affirm that we are a nation of laws, not of men or women, to hold those in high office to the highest of standards of national and international law. If we fail to do this, we have only ourselves to blame, while our government descends into depravity and tries to frog march us directly into nuclear war. Under the pretense of the pursuit of national security, our government's aggressive nature has alienated nations of the world and caused them to withdraw from commerce, with long-term implications for the value of our dollar and our financial security. Our government has ceded our sovereignty in matters of commerce to the World Trade Organization, to the detriment of American industry and American workers. It has ceded our national sovereignty in matters of peace to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which prefers military escalation to peace and is content, together with this administration, to use the good, courageous people of Ukraine as pawns in a vicious and deadly geopolitical chess game, which began well before the illegal Russian invasion. And it is now planning to do for the people of Taiwan what it has done for the people of Ukraine, portraying China the aggressor while surrounding China with about 200 military bases. At home, our government has supported devastating gain-of-function research, which loosed the pandemic across our land. It has perverted social media to suppress legitimate debate over COVID policy, to the detriment of the health, welfare, and the will of Americans. And it has enabled the federal government law enforcement to be weaponized against political opponents and has injected itself into social media organizations to impose political and ideological censorship in a manner characteristic of totalitarian rulers, attacking the patriotism of those Americans who dare ask questions. Such a government is neither deserving of the trust of the American people nor worthy of our tacit consent to make decisions in our own interests. This passage from the Declaration of Independence is compelling. Quote, that when any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. We must change this government before it destroys our nation. We must change the way we are governed, insisting upon a government dedicated to peace. And that dedication must be to peace at home and abroad. Strength through peace ensures our defense and our readiness by not wasting our resources on ideological warfare. I speak not as a partisan, but as an American who believes we are being led to the brink of annihilation by individuals lacking in self-control, obsessed with the exercise of global power, and incapable of invoking the power of nonviolent persuasion. As a congressman, I warned America about going to war after 9/11. I led the effort against the Iraq War together with Ron Paul and saw the lies that took the lives of at least 4,491 American men and women, cost this nation more than $3 trillion, laid waste the country of Iraq, killing at least 1 million innocents, all because our leaders lied about Iraq and weapons of mass destruction and provoked great fear across the land. For fear is a weapon of mass destruction. Hatred is a weapon of mass destruction. Our nation used to lead the world in making steel, cars, and ships. Now, we lead the world in making enemies, confusing defense with offense, aiming ourselves to the teeth, spending trillions of dollars to advance an aggressive empire through the promotion of war. But the wars, my dear friends, have come home. While our nation spends $1 trillion every year to prepare for war, millions of Americans are ill-fed, ill-clothed, ill-educated, ill-housed, without hope for the future. We cannot fuel wars across the world and pretend that there are no consequences. The wars inevitably come home. The carnage is now in the streets of our cities as millions of Americans are overwhelmed by anger, despair, hopelessness, and unrelenting mass violence. America's destiny in its founding was to be the light of the world, a free and independent nation among nations, not a nation above nations, not a military juggernaut roaming the world, conjuring dragons to slay. We were to be and are to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, not continually locked into fear by a government made of fearful people who are afraid of balloons. But instead, they really need to be afraid of the American people as we come to a realization that our government has been turned into a racket by corrupt, incompetent leaders. This then is a call for an American revival, a revival of courage, of authenticity, of a willingness to participate in the work of rebuilding our nation politically, economically, and spiritually. America longs for a return to government of the people, which focuses on taking care of things here at home. We as a nation cannot hope to favorably influence the conduct of other nations. Well, at least 30 million Americans are food insecure, 500,000 homeless struggle every day to have a roof over their heads, while American communities do not have clean water, and while our nation has shown itself incapable of even responding to the urgent needs of those affected by the derailment disaster in East Palestine. This government's chilling lack of compassion and empathy is on full display, not only in East Palestine, Ohio, but across the globe. Policies which lack human sympathy portend greater and greater destruction. My fellow Americans, it is time to revive the spirit of America so that each one of us truly believes in the ability of the nation to function for the benefit of all of us. It is time to make real the dream of prosperity for all. It is time to make real the dream of education for all, and health care for all, and jobs for all, retirement security, and safe neighborhoods. It is time to revive the spirit of patriotism, which reflects a daily celebration of freedom where Americans are free from government prying and spying into their personal lives, and where each of us is free to make decisions about our own lives, our own health, and our own beings. It is time, I'm almost there. It is time to revive the spirit of truth, of peace. The scriptures say, "Blessed are the peacemakers." It is time for America to establish a new role in the world where we demand of our leaders the ability to reconcile with other nations, to make peace with our brothers and sisters. We must coalesce as a nation to seek and define the underlying unity which binds us as Americans. Love of life binds us. Love of peace binds us. Love of country binds us. Brotherhood and sisterhood binds us. Love of home binds us. Love of church, synagogue, temple, and mosque binds us. Love of work binds us. Love binds us all in a union of hope. And as we revive our oneness as a nation, we proclaim the deeper meaning of our first national motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, we are one. It is then we can truly unite with the rest of the world, for human unity is the ultimate truth. We are interconnected and interdependent with people everywhere. And as nations strive for self-sufficiency, so too they must strive for cooperation. It is human unity which will save our planet from destruction and enable us to achieve a heaven on earth. It is the realization that we are, all of us, created equal and entitled to self-determination and self-fulfillment, individually and collectively. My fellow Americans, this our country, this land we love, to whom Americans pledge allegiance, must in turn pledge its allegiance to we the people, allegiance to truth, to one nation, under God, truly with liberty and justice for all. Let us proceed then by these words from Lincoln's second inaugural, with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have former member of Congress, Tulsi Gabbard. Give her a hand.
Aloha. Early one morning on a Saturday, on a beautiful day like today, in January of 2018, over 1 million people all across the state of Hawaii woke to their cell phones buzzing and ringing, radio alerts blaring, with a message that read, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. I and so many others, I happened to be here that morning. I started calling my friends and calling my family, concerned for them and where they were. But just as you here might imagine, if we all got that alert at this moment, so too did people all across Hawaii start to ask themselves the question, where is their shelter? Where do I go? Where do I take my children to be safe, knowing that there is an inbound missile to Hawaii with a nuclear warhead and we have just minutes to live? We had college students at the University of Hawaii sprinting across campus trying to figure out where they could possibly go to get shelter. A father who lowered his little girl down a manhole, thinking that may be the only place she may be safe, and telling her goodbye. I might not see you again. I heard after from a father who had one kid in town on the island of Oahu and another child on the other side of the island, and himself in the middle trying to decide which of his children he might spend the last of his minutes with. An impossible decision for any parent to make. Countless others shared their stories of their panic, cowering in the bathtub with their kids, trying to understand. They're telling us to seek immediate shelter. Where do we go? And experiencing that harsh reality. That was as true for us there in Hawaii in 2018 as it is for us here today. There is no shelter. Our leaders failed us then, and they continue to fail us now. Those people who work in our nation's capital eagerly continue to escalate tensions, eagerly wage new Cold Wars, understanding that if there's a nuclear attack, yes, they will be okay in their bunkers, where they literally have plans to be able to continue to wage wars from their bunkers without any consideration for the rest of us and the destruction and incineration that their wars will cause. This was ultimately the thing that caused me to run for president in 2020, because I saw where our leaders were taking us. I saw the dangers of where this new Cold War and nuclear arms race would eventually lead. Whether intentional or accidental, there is only one destination for such wars, and that is a nuclear holocaust. I made it clear then that this is a central issue of our time, the most important issue facing us in the 21st century, and that there was a clear choice in that election. We're either going to work towards peace, de-escalate tensions, move away from this new Cold War, or we will continue to race rapidly towards the nuclear brink. toward a new Cold War with Russia, a new Cold War with China, and therefore racing towards nuclear war. Now, for those of you who remember that election, this issue was not important to the media. They refused to talk about it. They refused to raise the question in the debates. There was no other candidate willing to talk about this issue. It was not important to them then, and it's not important to them now. And so here we are, 2 short years later. What I warned about then is now our reality. This proxy war that we're fighting against Russia right now could turn at any moment into a direct conflict between the United States, NATO, and Russia, a country that has more nuclear weapons than any other in the world. Now, anyone with a little bit of common sense knows that a Cold War can very quickly turn to a hot war. And that when you're waging a hot war against a nuclear-armed country, it's just a matter of time before it leads to the use of nuclear weapons at any moment. And here's the insanity of it all. We have talking heads on TV, we have politicians, we have very powerful people here in the United States and all around the world speaking with a straight face, well, you know, if we start World War III or when World War III starts, here's how we're going to fight and win. That if Putin decides to use tactical nuclear weapons, here's what we're going to do, as though such a war could ever be won. It cannot be won. World War III cannot be won. They're living in this archaic mindset of World War I and World War II and not facing the realities that we have today. There is no way to win a nuclear war. There is only one end, and that is a nuclear holocaust. So we're gathered here today because we know that it doesn't have to be this way. We know that there is a better way and that the task before us is urgent and necessary. We have people gathered here from all over the country, people who are gathered here from all ends of the political spectrum. And if we were to have a conversation, my guess is there may be other things we don't agree on. But the truth is that we could disagree about everything else. Everything else. But the one thing that we do agree on that brings us together here today is that we value life. We want to live. We want our loved ones to live and thrive. We want to be able to go out on a day like today and walk in the trees and hear the birds chirping with the sun shining down on our face. We understand that whatever our differences may be, that we must stand together as people who cherish peace, security, and freedom. We must set aside our differences, work together to fire those warmongering politicians from both political parties who serve their masters in the military-industrial complex instead of serving the people. Those warmongers who carelessly and thoughtlessly are sending us hurtling towards a nuclear holocaust that would destroy all life and the world as we know it. The only way we can stop them is when we stand together and lift our voices in unity, telling them no. We will not let you destroy us. We will not let you destroy our loved ones, our communities, our country, here in the United States and around the world. If we stand together on this one issue, we will be able to wrest the power away from those who don't care about us, those who bend the knee to their overlords in the military-industrial complex, take back that power and ensure that we take those trillions of dollars they are feeding into the war machine and instead dedicate those resources towards peace, prosperity, and freedom. We cannot be free and prosperous or safe unless we are at peace. We are the spark that has the power to light that fire to bring about change. So let that spark of love that exists in every single one of our hearts, that aloha, be that inspiration and that fuel that provides us with the courage to fight against these powerful entities, knowing that our cause is just, it is right, and it is necessary. We must work together towards this future and fulfilling and accomplishing this mission of peace. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Thank you so much for that unifying message.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, give it up for the Congresswoman.
All right. Up next, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, the hero of the Liberty Movement, former presidential candidate, and former congressman. Let's give it up for Congressman Dr. Ron Paul. Woo! In the Fed. Oh, right over here.
They stole my line. No, I was going to say and open up by saying thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation. I like to visit places where I have friends. There are a lot of friends of liberty out here and a lot of friends of peace. So I get energized with coming here. A lot of people give me some credit for coming and helping them along. But the truth is, I get energized. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for inviting me. You know, I was going to say that we've heard a lot of speeches and a lot of opinions, and everybody has joined in. I didn't hear anybody saying we need to expand the war. We're not doing well in Ukraine, but we need to take on the Russians. That'll go better. Oh, no, we need to go to China, and we're still struggling in Syria. No, nobody's for that. At least I haven't heard them. They didn't get a place. I hope they didn't ever get a place on the platform for that. So this has been, wonderful to come to a place that comes together on this issue. But the one thing is that I've emphasized over the years when speaking in a couple of campaigns is that it's serious. And we just heard this very serious dissertation about how serious the problem we deal with. But, with that, understanding how serious this is, my admonition is always come together and have fun. And I understand a lot of people have been having fun today, meeting new people and joining. I think that's great. But I also came because I've been concerned. I've been really worried about something. And I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not into technology and all, but I want to know more about this thing called artificial intelligence. What is that all about? But I figured it out. I put up with it for 23 years in the Congress, and there was a lot of artificial intelligence over there, let me tell you. A lot of innuendos and whatnot. But I wanted to simplify my speech, and of course somebody stole my line. But I think that we can deal with the war issue very simply. And believe me, and I'll explain it more why I believe this, that the answer is end the Fed. I knew there were friends here. Thank you. No, and there's a reason why ending the Fed is a movement toward stopping these wars. How do they finance them? They have to tax the people. Well, they tax them with income taxes and all kinds of taxes, but they never have enough money. They never have enough money, so they have to borrow a lot of money, and then people get tired borrowing the money and loaning the money to the government. So what do? They have this little gimmick called run up the debt and print the money. And if you're on the side of thinking our government is too big, and as libertarians, we generally think the government's too big all over the place, And we'd like to cut back. So if you can't print the money and you can't collect the taxes by debasing the currency and stealing the wealth from the people, unnerving the middle class and the poor, because that's who really pays for this, you couldn't have a war. You couldn't have runaway spending. You couldn't have debts. And we should have it in the Constitution, and Jefferson argued for it. He said that you shouldn't even be allowed to have debt. I think that's a pretty good idea. No debt at all. So that is the way they do. Soften it up, and the people go along with it and figure that, yes, we can do it, but they don't understand what's happening. But why do the people go along with it? And we spent a lot of time over the Mideast wars trying to stop that war. I didn't do too well. They still had the war, and you keep wondering why do they do it? Why does the government do it? It doesn't make any sense. And why do the people go to war? You know, one thing I'd like to suggest is, if we ever got around to thinking that we ought to vote on the wars instead of letting an executive order take us to war, we ought to have a vote. If you think you should have a war, have a vote and make sure that the vote is carried out by the people between 18 and 24. That is the group that gets punished the most, and the others could recreate the wars. But, you know, trying to figure still out of that, I thought I'd ask this guy that sort of just helped destroy Germany, Hermann Göring. You remember him? And he has a famous quote out there. Why do the people do it? And this was after he was convicted at Nuremberg. You know, that he had some interviews. They said, why did the people do it? And he said he had two things. He says, one, you got to lie to the people, and they have to be big lies. If they're just routine lies, they won't believe it. But if they're so big, it's so outrageous, they'll say nobody could believe that's true, and they'd ignore it. But tell big lies and tell them often that people will go along with the war. Yeah, but still, why do the people do it? And they march off, and a lot of the wars start off, people are against the war. World War II and certainly the Middle Eastern wars, the people were opposed to it. But and this is Göring, and I'll paraphrase, of course. He says, scare the living daylights out of the people. Tell them they aren't patriotic and they aren't for peace. And embarrass them. He says it works every time in every system of government in every country. Just scare the living daylights out of people. And, you know, I think that type of an analysis applies to our war. Scare the people and patriotism. And I'll bet you there's many people in this audience that have had to be on the receiving end of that type of thing. Oh, you're not for the war, so you're un-American. And they did that once to me in the campaign. And it turned out that they were accusing me of being unpatriotic. I wouldn't support the war. You wouldn't support the troops. But when somebody came up with a statistic, it showed that Ron Paul had the most donations from the military. And then I got to thinking, well, why should that be a surprise? I was in the military. They sort of drafted me, and I was in, but the people I knew, they were decent people, and the draft was on at that time, and they would say, well, why are you doing this? And the draft, of course, has not been used, but there's other ways of doing it. The book should be clean. We should, if we're not for the draft, why do we have registration? They know where every one of us is. Not every year where you sign up with taxes. Every minute of the day, they know where every one of us is, and then they still make us go through the ritual of registering in case there's a war going on. You know, it's psychological preparation for people to know that if you want to be a good citizen and you want to be a patriot, you have to go to the wars. And people go along with that, and they don't want to be called unpatriotic. And I think we all sense and understand and may have some empathy for that, but it's wrong. It's deception, and it's part of this thing called artificial intelligence. You know, they come in and they lie through their teeth, and it's all artificial. But the artificialness of it, you know, is such. And what you hear there, it might be disinformation, and they have to twist it around. If an individual is guilty of disinformation, have you ever noticed they might blame their opposition for doing exactly what they're doing? And, you know, they reverse it, and so there's a lot of fakery. So this gets down to the whole issue of seeking truth in the big picture. We seek truth as we come to events like this, and when we run for office and we write and talk, and so many people here have their own way of spreading a message. So yes, that is real good. But what we need, though, is some people really understanding the issues, because that is what will finally get people to change their minds rather than waiting. You know, one of the lines that was helpful for me in the campaigning, they would say, "Yeah, Ron, that's okay. We're with you on this, but it's so complicated. Well, how do you stop these wars?" And I said, "You just marched in, we can just march home." But now I've changed that a little bit. We shorten that. We have to anticipate. Just don't send them in at all. You know, there's such a fallacy, and this is part of the propaganda thing, that is so necessary, not for patriotic reasons, but for other reasons. And there's always an excuse. The one that annoys me the most, or at least close to the most, is this argument. They'll say, "Ron, we need a good war right now. We're having a recession. Have a war and we'll get out of the recession." And this is a lingering of a foolhardy idea that the World War II got us out of the Great Depression. That's stupid. It wasn't true at all. The Depression got worse. Besides, we sent hundreds of thousands of people over getting shot at and killed, and they say, "Oh, the war's good. That'll get us out of our depression." So there's all kinds of excuses like that, and they don't mention the many things that have already been mentioned at this conference, that there's ulterior motives and you know, like profits, and we're getting too many of these special groups, like the military-industrial complex. We have the pharmaceutical-industrial complex, the medical-industrial complex, and the whole works. What we need to do is have a people's independence, and they're the ones who should be looked at. And you know, another little rule that I think we should follow is that, and this is one word. I like to narrow down my philosophy. And the other word that I like is voluntarism. Wouldn't that be a wonderful world to live in, that if you apply voluntarism, which is nonviolence, and you have voluntarism, what do you mean? Does that mean you can go to the store and buy what you want? No, voluntarism means that everything is done when it involves two groups or two people voluntarily. Both sides have to agree. Otherwise, you avoid it. You can't force anybody to do anything. And you know what would happen? Peace would break out. So therefore, you have to have the hoodlums up there making it so that it's not voluntary. And then somebody gets to write a lot of regulations, and they get to do all the nonsense they do, and then they bankrupt the country. So that's the problem. I think voluntarism is just a great idea. And the other thing is when government comes to knocking on your door, that is the tough thing. And they will tell you one reason why they're doing this, because we're on the side of truth and the side of democracy and all these things. I work on the assumption of the issue of truth. I think is very, very important. That's what we're seeking here. That's why you're here. But we know the truth. I bet, we generally agree with peace is good and war is bad. So we're pretty good on that. But we have to realize that a lot of other people, have to say that a lot of other people don't know much about it. I have a personal belief that we as individuals also, seek for excellence and virtue. If we accept voluntarism and we accept this promotion of excellence and virtue, what would happen with that? If that happened, the government would be minuscule and they would be much better and maybe a little more virtuous. Thank you very much.
Ron Paul!
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Our last closing video is a video sent specially to us by Roger Waters, international rock icon. And right after that, we're going to be marching to the White House.
We've got additional speakers at the White House, too.
Welcome! I have to shout because I'm in Switzerland. Can you hear me? Okay. When I was a young man, my mother once told me this. Roger, throughout your life, you will be faced with many difficult questions and quandaries. My advice to you, when you are, is this. Read, read, read. Listen to all sides of the argument, especially from those you don't always agree with. Research thoroughly. When you have, you will have done all the heavy lifting. The next bit is easy. So what is the next bit, Mum? Then you just do the right thing. The invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation was illegal. I condemn it in the strongest possible terms. Also, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was not unprovoked. So I also condemn the provocateurs in the strongest possible terms. So, on behalf of the silent majority, I now address President Biden. Let us be very clear, Mr. President. I speak for the voiceless majority. You and Antony Blinken and Victoria Nuland and Jake Sullivan and the rest of the warmongering neocons at the heart of government here in Washington, along with the vassal states in NATO, are the principal provocateurs that I mentioned. I'm not apologizing for Mr. Putin, you understand, but just to glance fleetingly back at the history of the last 30 years or so, you could have done better. You could have followed President Gorbachev's lead in 1989. You could have kept Secretary of State Baker's promise not to advance NATO 1 yard closer to the Russian border than the eastern extremities of a reunited Germany. You could have responded to President Putin's overtures in his famous 10th of February 2007 speech at the Security Conference in Munich, and shepherded us all towards a much, much safer Europe. Or, in 2008, you could have chosen not to expand NATO eastwards. Or, in 2014, you could have refrained from engineering the illegal maiden coup d'etat in Ukraine. Or, in 2019, you could have supported the Minsk Accords. Now we're told by Angela Merkel they were just a ruse to buy time to arm Ukraine for the war that you were engineering. But they were also, the Minsk Accords that is, the platform that President Zelensky ran on during his presidential campaign. Well, you fooled me, President Zelensky. I thought you meant all that stuff about ending the civil war in the Donbass and giving Russia, your neighbor, some security assurances. I thought you were coming to your senses. Not a bit of it. In 2022, February, March, and April, you could have told Boris Johnson not to fly to Kiev to scupper the peace negotiations, but you chose not to. And then, in September 2022, according to world-renowned investigative reporter Seymour Hersh, you blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. If that turns out to be true, a blatant act of war and an extreme act of global terrorism, releasing, as it did, 300,000 tons of methane into the atmosphere over the Baltic Sea. First, you, Mr. President, boasted openly about your intention and ability to do it. And then recently, Victoria Newland boasts about how pleased she is that it's a, quote, hunk of junk at the bottom of the sea. And Antony Blinken boasts how perfectly its destruction suits the US imperial agenda. And now, to cap it all off, you have your idiot mouthpiece, Nick Price, deny that the USA had anything to do with it. We have heard no statement from you, Mr. President. There is no mainstream media coverage. I guess you and the mainstream media think Cy Hersh's piece and the mysterious exploding pipeline is just of no interest to the people. Enough is enough. We demand change. Do the right thing. Implement a ceasefire in Ukraine today. Imagine the collective sigh of relief.
We didn't plan that part. It was kind of impromptu, so.
Thank you,
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Now we march. Get ready. It's going to line up over here. It's going to be starting there. It's going to be going along this side of the reflecting pool to 17th Street up to Pennsylvania Avenue. See you guys on the march.
Hey guys, I don't know why it's frozen. Just came back from the gym. Let me check this out. See if the stream has been lost. What is going on here? Huh. Well, yeah, I don't know. It seems to be it. They're not. I was hoping they'd film the march. Well, it looks like it's still going on. The stream, whoever's on the ground there is not getting data right now. It's on in and out. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to stop it, and I got another couple things coming out regarding this as well, already edited. So let's get to those premieres next. Have a good one, guys. Have a fantastic day.